Karen gets arrested because I wasn't being a good cashier, posted by Sim Mini. So I used to work as a cashier in a supermarket. This story took place on my 4th day of work there, and my 2nd day working at a cash register on my own without a supervisor sitting next to me, like teaching me the ropes. Yes, I had 2 days of training. I'm sure most of you will figure out in which country I live from the following explanation. It will become relevant later. Supermarkets in my country are a zoo on a regular day. However, Thursdays and Fridays are absolute mayhem at the store and are a special kind of heck. Fridays, the store closes 2 hours before sundown, as do most stores in this country. So during the winter, this means at around 1400 and in summer, closer to 1630. People get crazy on Fridays, trying to get all their shopping done and get home in time to cook dinner. If you can avoid coming to the store on Friday, please do so at all costs. I always told people after this day. The reason Thursdays are heck is because we get all the customers who don't want to come in on Friday. Now, this was early evening on a Thursday, at a time when the store is absolutely jam-packed. We had 10 checkout lines open, and every line had at least 6 or 7 people in line. Basically, if you're stuck with the slow cashier, there is nowhere else to go unless you have 10 items or less. Everything is going well until I get a customer with 2 shopping carts full of items, mostly non-perishable items, and these are the large carts you find around big stores in the US like Walmart. I found out later he buys this for a community center in his neighborhood and he fills up their pantry twice a year. Nice guy. He greeted me very politely and then said the most dreaded words I could have ever heard that night. "This will be a delivery." Just a quick break from the story to explain why this was so dreaded, especially on a day like today. When we get a delivery, the cashier would call a helper from the store to help bag the groceries. Usually, people do their own bagging. The bags would then be placed in plastic containers, and then containers would be placed on top of each other and taken to the back fridge until delivery. A regular delivery is usually between 3 to 5 crates. Each crate has a number, which then I have to input all of them into the computer, along with correct delivery address and phone numbers, and print out with the receipt and place copies in the crates. Even for a small delivery, this always takes extra time. Back to the story. This guy has 2 full carts and wants a delivery. I say, sure, no problem. And then I turn to everyone else in line and let them know that this is a delivery and it will take just a bit longer than usual and apologize for any delay this may cause. We always do this, so customers will be aware of the delay and can move to another cash register if they're in a hurry. This is when the whole line groaned simultaneously. I don't blame them. There was nowhere else to go. I could see every one of them craning their necks to check out other lines, and they all decided to stay. So I start scanning as fast as I can. I'm pretty good with numbers, so even though it's my 4th day, I remember many of the codes and things are moving rather quickly. I get to a point where the bagger can't keep up with all the items, and the area to the left of me, where I place all the scanned items, is just a mountain of cans and bags of chips and whatnot. I can't even scan another item because they're all falling back onto my scale. At this point, I stop and ask if he wants help bagging. The customer and the bagger are both appreciative, and I help bag groceries for a few minutes. Just enough to clear some space so I can continue scanning items. This happens every few minutes. It gets full, I stop to help, clear some space, and keep going. This is where the Karen comes into play. She is maybe early 40s, long brown hair, and looks nothing like a Karen, except for the way she was standing with one hand on a hip that extended so far to the side that I wasn't sure how she's still standing. She's still in my line, about 5 or 6 people in front of her still, and this is the conversation that follows. Karen says, "Hello, what are you doing?" I don't answer because I didn't think she was talking to me. I just keep scanning. "Excuse me, what kind of cashier are you?" Why aren't you doing your job? Stop being lazy and do your job. She screams at the top of her lungs. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just trying to. That's not your job. You are a cashier. Do your job. Do your job. I realize now, after reading so many Reddit stories, that this would have been a perfect chance for some malicious compliance. I'm sure some of you hope that I did just what Karen wanted. Too bad I didn't know about it then, or that it was only my 4th day on the job. That's not what happened, although I dream sometimes that I did just that. You know, like sit back and sip my coffee until the space cleared for more scanned items. You know, be a cashier. Next time. I said, I'm just helping to move things along faster. If this is a problem, or if you're in a hurry, feel free to move to another line. I'm sure another cashier will be more than happy to serve you. I may sound like I'm the a-hole with this line, but I said it really nicely, not sarcastic at all. Obviously, that didn't help. Karen, not listening anyway, and having none of it, shouts, "Just do your dang job. You are a cashier. What is wrong with you? Are you stupid? You should be fired." I stop listening at this point, and I don't answer as I'm still helping to bag and scan as fast as possible, knowing it's not going to help anyway. However, I see one of my managers, let's call him Joe, walk up to Karen. Joe is great, by the way, always helping the workers. Joe says, "What seems to be the problem?" Karen, still yelling, shouts, "Your cashier is awful. She is lazy and she is not doing her job. You should fire her. Tell her to do her job. She is not doing her job." She repeated that like a few times like a broken record. Joe looks over at me for a second, understands exactly what is happening, turns to Karen and says, "Can't you see she's just trying to help? She's trying to make this go much faster." Now Karen starts screaming words, I'm assuming, but I couldn't really make them out. She was practically foaming at the mouth. Joe tries to calm her down by explaining, or trying to, how me bagging items is actually helping, and this makes Karen even more irate, if you can believe it. Spit flying from her mouth, arms flailing, screaming like a banshee. Suddenly, I notice an older woman, a nice old lady. She must have been around 80 years old, trying to get Karen's attention by tapping her on the shoulder. It takes a few tries, but she finally gets her attention and spins her around by her shoulder. Nice old lady says, "Hey, Karen? Karen? Excuse me? Karen!" "What?" "Your daughter is crying." This is when the entire store seemed to have stopped talking all at once, like someone pressed mute and turned off the volume. The sea of people in front of me parts a bit, and we all look down and see a little girl who couldn't have been older than 4, clutching her mother's thighs, bawling her eyes out, snot coming out of everywhere, hyperventilating. This girl was terrified, and I can't blame her. Seeing her mother going off like that must have been terrifying, and she has no idea what's happening. She's in a huge store where she knows no one, and she's practically invisible. This silence lasted an entire 2 seconds because that's when Karen started yelling at Joe. "Look what you did, and you and your stupid lazy cashier, you made my daughter cry," and a bunch of other just crazy sounds that were perhaps supposed to be words. Things happened in slow motion for the next few seconds. She starts to swing towards Joe. Now, Joe's not a big guy, but he is bigger than Karen, that's for sure, and he's not easily intimidated. Not his first Karen. She would have decked him right in the face if the nice old lady hadn't grabbed her in a bear hug to stop her. Yes, she did. I had to pick up my jaw off of the floor. At that point, other customers got involved, trying to peel off the nice old lady from Karen and stop Karen from trying to kill Joe, and from Joe trying to kill Karen because he was just fuming by then. At this point, I saw mall security storm the castle. Our store was inside of a mall, and the sea of people just surrounded Karen, and I couldn't really see much of anything anymore. Kind of like football players when there's a fumble and they all jump on the ball. By the sound of yelling getting farther and farther away, I figured Karen was being either led to the back office or to the mall security office or mall jail. This The entire time that this is happening, I'm still bagging and scanning items, and I'm about halfway through this customer's purchase. I finish up with him with no more problems. He was very nice and thanked me profusely for helping with the bags, even though technically it wasn't part of my job. He said that I was the fastest and nicest cashier he ever had the pleasure of meeting. I was just happy to help. No one else in my line complained. I actually got compliments from people about keeping my composure. Apparently, many cashiers in my country think it's okay to yell at the customers and just be plain nasty. I worked in customer service for many years prior, and I have never yelled at a customer, even if they deserved it. Once the rush died down a bit, I went for a break. I met another employee in the back room, and I started to tell him of what just happened when he cut me off. She was yelling at you. I heard that. Well, everyone heard that, but I had no idea what in the world was happening. He told me that police were called and Karen was escorted out of the store and the mall in handcuffs. I filled him in on everything, and we spent the next 30 minutes laughing. I don't know what happened with the child. I'm assuming they called another family member to pick her up. I also don't know what happened with Karen after that, since I ended up working there for another year, and I never saw her again. Hopefully, she learned to do her grocery shopping on Tuesday or Wednesday, or was probably in prison or house arrest. This was the first Karen that I had the displeasure of meeting while working at that store, but it definitely was not the last. I mean, I am just looking at this. Props to Opie the cashier for keeping a level head, because that's a skill set that not everyone can do when they're being literally attacked by this Karen. And to top it off, the manager comes out. Of course, Karen wants a manager. Obviously, we knew that was going to happen, right? And then a nice old lady right behind Karen, 80 years old, didn't wake up thinking she wants to deal with this kind of crap today, so she spins around and dang near tackles her. All the while, now this is a big thing here, I'm a dad, so all the while I'm noticing like, oh my gosh, this Karen's 4-year-old toddler is at the mercy of her, and all of this has no idea what's going on, just her mom's being an absolute ballistic lunatic, whatever, and that right there, that kid, man, that kid had to go through that with the Karen. Now what's going to happen to the kid next? Oh man, don't yell at cashiers in stores, be nice, go to another line, wait your turn, just do not be this Karen. Please, do not be her. OP, very well handled. Nice story, I liked it. Did you? Entitled Karen wants to use my wheelchair at an antique store, posted by Artistic Pain 2355. The cast is me, Nels, an old man, and then Harriet, who is Karen. My husband and I rent a display space in an antique and consignment store for our collective side hustles. I quilt and crochet, and my husband sells customized die-cast cars and diorama supplies. Every few weeks, we go in and restock our space. This store is very large and can be a bit of a maze, and the store has designated rest stops throughout the aisles. One is across from our space. The store does not provide mobility aids for customers, so it's a bring your own policy if you need a walker or a wheelchair. I'm a wheelchair user as I'm paralyzed from an L2 spinal cord injury. My husband and I were at the store restocking the space. My husband had just left to take one of our totes out to our van, leaving me in our space sorting through the tote of the baby sets that I make. When I hear someone huffing behind me, I didn't really pay too much attention to it, thinking that someone might have been taking a break at the rest stop. I was just finishing laying out my sets on the table in our space when the person at the rest stop decided to talk to me. "Do you know if the store has wheelchairs for people to use?" I look up from my task and see an elderly couple across from our space. The old man is standing next to the bench, looking kind of annoyed, while the woman has flopped on the bench in an "I can't take another step" kind of way. I honestly was concerned that she might have been having a medical issue, as she was just rather plump. "Are you okay?" I ask, about to tell her or her partner to use the phone above the bench to reach the staff desk for help. "This store is too freaking big," Harriet exclaims. "I can't walk anymore." I say, "The store has a chair for medevac use. One of the employees could bring it to you if you need help leaving." "But we're not done shopping." "I don't think they have wheelchairs to borrow. They've had issues with rowdy kids riding mobility scooters, so they don't provide them. But if you use the phone above you, you can ask a staff member. Just dial 1 and it'll connect you to the staff desk. There's a sign next to the phone that said this." Harriet seems to be thinking about her options, so I go about my work. Nels wanders down the aisle, possibly looking for an escape route. Harriet shouts, "What about the wheelchair you're sitting in?" "This is my personal wheelchair. It doesn't belong to the store." "Can I borrow it?" "What?" Surely she's not asking to take my chair to go shopping. "I want to use the wheelchair. You're young enough that you could just stand to walk for a bit. I'll bring it back." "Ma'am, I cannot stand at all. I've been a paraplegic since I was 12. This wheelchair is not store issued. It's my personal property that cost a lot of money. If you call the staff, maybe they can let you use the medical chair, or maybe they know of someone in their space that has one that you can buy. But I will not give you my chair, and I cannot help you." At this point, I've rolled out of our space. I decided to head towards the vendor door and just leave. Rumor has it, Harriet is still sitting on the bench waiting for someone to give her a wheelchair. Now this is next level Karen here, because this person just assumed what they wanted to. Honestly, that's what it is. And they had no tact, no care or grace to OP to even think just for 2 seconds of what this could mean. OP, you handled this very, very gracefully and well. Wow, this Karen here is just an absolute menace. I'm sorry you had to experience this, Karen, but I'm glad that you were able to handle it like you did. Crazy lady claimed to be the former owner of my truck, posted by bungee cord throwaway. In 2020, I lost my home in a wildfire and was only left with whatever I could pack up in a Ford Focus during the evacuation. I was renting a basement apartment in a country house, and most of my stuff went up in flames. I realized that my car may get good gas mileage, but it's not going to hold a lot of stuff, or, well, tow anything. My landlord evacuated his family in a big GMC truck with a 5th-wheel trailer. He had everything he needed, from emergency food storage to backup vehicles. His wife drove another truck out fully loaded with the trailer full of their stuff. They had everything they needed to survive and more. That made me realize that I needed to be better prepared. I had to couch surf for a while, and I could never stay in one place for long because I was a guest and not a tenant. So I ended up living out of a tent in a field with several other people who'd also lost their homes to the fires. It was like a tent village set up by a local charity. The shelters were beyond full, and it's a warm climate, so tents were the next best way to go considering the situation at the time. I managed to get a used but decent sized tent and basically furnished it like a tiny apartment with a cot, small table, and some chairs. I even housed a poker night in it a few times. Though I tried to make sure I didn't leave anything worth stealing in it when I went to work. I was still going to work almost every day and even volunteering for extra shifts. I was saving money since I wasn't paying rent and was living the tent life. And I made up my mind to keep saving to one day buy a truck of my own. Because if this situation with the wildfires or some other disaster ever happened again, I need to be better prepared. Move on to just a few months ago. I put down over a year's worth of savings to buy a used Chevy Silverado 1500 with a canopy already on it. It's got a few dents and a big diagonal scratch across the hood, and the paint is a bit weather worn. But so what? It had a good bit less than 100,000 miles on it and a list of recent repairs that included a new radiator. I'd spent a year living as cheaply as possible to save as much as possible. I wanted a truck and a camp trailer in case the fires ever come back. Some people have tried to call me a hoarder for picking up stuff off the side of the road and then using it, but I don't keep all that stuff at my apartment. In fact, I keep almost minimal furniture. Some remark that my apartment looks like it was just moved into, as I still keep some of my stuff packed in boxes. I want to be able to pack and leave fast if I have to, especially since the world only seems to be getting worse right now. I bought the truck, an ironically silver Silverado. I bought it off a man who looked to be in his 50s that said he has a bad back and can't use it anymore. And he gave me a steal of a deal when I came to get it by dropping the price by $1,000 because he felt that I was clearly in love with it. And I am. I'm very happy with the truck. She drives like a dream. A big, heavy dream, but still a dream. And she was clearly underdriven by the previous owner, as it's still not at 100,000 miles. I still kept my old Ford Focus though, that way my fuel costs won't skyrocket. Now, let's go to what happened a few weeks after I bought the truck. I was out in the same general area that I bought the truck in to look at a used camp trailer that I was possibly interested in buying. But it ended up being in such bad shape that I turned it down because it was beyond my skills to repair. Before leaving the town, I stopped to eat at a local diner. Great burgers there, by the way. And as I was leaving after having dinner, I noticed a woman who looked to be somewhere in her 40s looking over my truck. I'm not going to use the term Karen to describe this person because I know 2 women named Karen and they are both fantastic people. So no Karen here, but she did sort of have that look that people associate with the stereotype. I asked the lady what she was doing poking around my truck, and she gave me a side glare while demanding to know where I got it. I said, well, I just bought it a few weeks prior. She rushed up to me and said, I didn't buy it, I stole it. I told her, no, I purchased it from the title owner, so that makes it mine. The lady then rifled through her purse to pull out a smartphone and scrolled through it. And then she showed a photo of a truck in it. I looked at the truck in the picture, and I'll be a monkey's uncle, it was the same truck. The license plate and scratch on the hood were clearly visible, and there was also a man in the photo, the same guy who sold me the truck. When I acknowledged this, the crazy lady started yelling, see, and then demanded I return it to her. She held her hand out for the keys and kept saying to give it back. I told her that I bought the Silverado fair and square off the guy in the photo, and that it's my truck now. But she didn't let up. She went and sat on my bumper and called the police. She was heavily exaggerating while talking to the operator, or the dispatcher, or whatever they call the person on the line when you call 911. I'm not sure. She refused to get off of my truck, so I decided to just wait it out for the police to show up. When police got there, I stayed completely calm, but the crazy lady went off and started working up tears and saying that her truck went missing some time ago and she finally found it. And then she demanded that they arrest me for grand theft auto and get her truck back. I just calmly unlocked the doors, got my insurance card, registration, and license to hand to one of the officers. I told them to just check my documents and they'd see that I am the legal owner. But the crazy lady did not stop. She tried to run to the door of the truck that I'd opened, but I'd relocked it before I shut it. And she tried repeatedly to pull on the handle while telling the police to just arrest me already. One of the officers calmed the lady down while the other ran my information. He came back after a few minutes and said that, well, everything checks out. The crazy lady looked like a British word that I like to use that I can think best described the moment. Gobsmacked. She said that it can't be and demanded the police check again. Then she pulled out her phone to show more pictures of the truck, and I pointed out that the man in one of the photos was the one who sold the truck to me, and I have no idea what relation the crazy lady is to him, but he's the only person I bought the truck from. The police asked her who it was, and she said it was her soon-to-be ex-husband. They were going through a divorce. I pointed out when I bought the truck, her husband's name was the only one on the title. The crazy lady yelled at me that he'd originally bought it for her, and it was missing one day after she came home. All I could do was shrug and say I didn't know that. But her husband was the legal owner before me, and I bought the truck from him. The police told her that I was correct, and it is legally my truck now. The lady went from crazy to just very sad as she cried that it was her truck and he sold it without her permission. I did feel sorry for the woman and said to the police that they may want to do a wellness check on her or something. They said that I was free to go and they would handle the situation from there. When I was getting ready to leave, the crazy lady yelled that she was going to follow me and find out where I live. But the 2 officers didn't let her do so. I left the parking lot and hightailed it on the highway to get out of there. I later contacted the guy who sold me the truck, and he admitted that the crazy lady is his soon-to-be ex-wife. She cheated on him for the 2nd time, and it was the final nail in the coffin for their marriage. The truck was always in his name only, and that woman had signed a prenup when they married. So the divorce was not going in her favor. It's been months now, and that lady has not found me again. so I'm probably in the clear as long as I avoid the area that I bought the truck in. Though, for all I know, she's not even living there anymore since her husband divorced her. Oh, P, my goodness, so you went through this terrible time, you came out ahead, saved the money, got the truck, everything looked great, and then crazy lady comes aboard, and it's like, oh my goodness, threatening the police and everything. You don't expect that after you illegally buy a truck, and then you finally find out that the other guy was the owner, the lady was telling the truth, partially, and then they take care of her for you, and then you get to go off on your own way, and everything works out in the end. Good job, OP. I'm sorry you went through all that stuff, and I'm glad you came out on top in the end. Remember, the Austin Stories podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms, so check me out on there as well. Karen says I should be lucky. What? Posted by Bobby Senpai. So it's a bit of a backstory. I have many years under my belt of building custom computers and have built a name for myself in my town as a guru. A friend started that name years ago. I've always been intimate, anything tech, and now I freelance AI, apps, security, and repairs, graphic design for games, programming games, web design and development, and my favorite is custom builds per user. I have a few questions I ask people that want a custom build from me, and I'll explain that later, as it helps me decide on the parts and the upgrades to the hardware down the line if so chosen to do so. So I work from home as I don't own a storefront, and I work solely alone. I also don't make as much as you'd expect from custom builds. Also, I'm pretty patient with people since I'm used to customer service and have taken care of my special needs brother and sister. So, with that out of the way, here we go. I was at home working on a server for a local small mom and pop place when I received a call from Karen. I answered, and she started off rather nice, but that was about to change. She said it was her son's 15th birthday and wanted to get him his dream game computer, and that I was highly recommended by her friend. Always a bit of a boost to hear people recommending me. That's when I started to ask my questions. I first asked about budget. She said $2,000. Second, I asked her if he planned to stream videos, make his own stream content, or make YouTube videos. Well, she didn't know. I told her, well, that's okay, but if he did, I'd need to know or we can plan for that. She said, let's plan for it. Third question was, what games did he like or what was he planning to play? She didn't know, and why the heck I'm so interested in what her kid does. Well, I explained that games have different settings for graphic quality at different resolutions, and then I explained frame rates to her as well. She said just pick what I think would be best and not be picking in her son's life. I had to explain the questions are so that I can build him the best PC for his uses. She accepted this, and we went on. Third question was if there was Ethernet or will he be using Wi-Fi. She yelled over the phone, saying what, so I can hack her or something? Apparently, she thinks that knowing this allows me to hack her, and why would I? I had to explain again that this was so I could include a Wi-Fi card or a motherboard that has Wi-Fi capabilities, as some come out of the box ready for it. She was mumbling something but said fine, and if she gets hacked, I get sued. I told her that I don't hack people, I just need to know so I can spend more or less on parts. She then said, no more questions, just do it. I told her that I asked these questions to better provide the correct parts and PC services that I can, as this allows me to build to the user. She said, well, I think you have enough information now, just do it. I was thinking I literally don't have the information, as she didn't know. Maybe it was a surprise for her kid, I thought, and she didn't want to give it away. Now I think she just didn't know her kid. So I just took the most popular games and moderate graphics into account. I gave her the price, which was just over $1,900. Now, mind you, the price of GPUs, or graphics processing units, were coming down around this time, but they were still high. I always charge a $100 build fee, so her total was just over $1,900 with that fee. She then told me I tried to get every penny and Walmart has them cheaper at around $1,000. I explained to her, yes, but they are using older hardware and games are always advancing, that this allows him to play any modern title and future ones as well. She then asked if that was the monitor, keyboard, mouse, and desk with lights. If only she would have let me finish my questions before. I explained, no, this was just the computer, as she never stated she wanted all of that with the price. I tried to explain that my questioning is all about the build itself first, then the peripherals, but I never got to it as she exploded in a rage, telling me I was a scammer and how her son was going to build his own games and be more successful than me, and that I should be lucky to build a computer and do it for free since he will be famous one day. I stayed calm as normally, as I would have snapped at treatment like this and just hung up. But I have a soft spot for people who want to learn tech, and it was the kid's birthday. So I told her that there was no need for such words. Then she said, "I'm telling everyone who you really are, Mr. Scammer," and hung up. The next day, I got a call from her husband. Oh boy, I thought that when he told me who he was. However, he was very nice. I went through my process again, and the computer was to be a surprise. I then asked if they wanted, I could build the PC with their son and teach him, or both, or all of them, how to do it. It's something that I do so they can upgrade or get a small head start on learning. He loved the idea. And the day came, and apparently I was an idol to the kid, as his youth pastor has a custom Marvel case that I built for his computer, which is who recommended me. The mom, though, was just silent and never said a word. Me, the kid, and his dad all had fun as I taught them, but the mom just didn't join. They even spent more at the husband's request, as he wanted his kid to have the best. He tried to pay me more, but I refused, as I don't charge more than $100 per build unless I'm driving further away for a build to be done in person. I did get a bad review on my store's Facebook, but no one paid attention. I guess a Karen is still a Karen. This story hits because this lady was trying to do something nice for her son, gets these paranoid delusions that make absolutely no sense when he was explaining everything, and the dad comes in, does right by the son, and then the son loves him, the dad does, the referral does, everybody does except for, well, the Karen, right? And a negative review after all of that, really? You saw your son was pleased with the results, happy as he could be, and the husband too, and still you do it. This, my friends, is a Karen, and I'm sorry, Opie, but I do like the story, do you? So much drama. Babies bring out the worst in in-laws. Posted by Queen for Life. Some backstory before I share the text messages that really make this great. PSA, this story is long because it contains messages, but the drama is worth it. This officially started because my grandmother-in-law really wanted to see my newborn son. My grandmother-in-law over the years has started to show signs of what I believe is dementia and doesn't make the best judgments. I've also realized she can be emotionally manipulative and has been way before she started to show signs of not completely being there. I won't go into much detail about this, just trust me when I say she's overall not a great person, but she's still my husband's grandmother and I would never have done anything to upset her. Now, after about 2 months, my grandmother-in-law has really been pushing to see my son. Both me and my husband were hesitant about this because she's been very sick recently. On top of that, she has a history of being sick but not telling anyone that she is until after the fact. So, for example, like a family gathering. When I was super pregnant, we were invited to Thanksgiving at their house, and I declined to go because I was getting induced the next week, and if I got sick, they would have pushed it back further. My grandmother-in-law promised she was fine, but I didn't feel comfortable with it and stayed home. Not even 2 days later, she told mother-in-law that she was very sick and wasn't feeling great, even at Thanksgiving. All relevant to why I didn't want her to see my son yet, as we are still deep in RSV season and he had just gotten his first round of vaccines. However, much pushing and guilt tripping from both her, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law, we decided that she could meet our son at our house. Just a little detail, we live with my grandmother and she helps me so much with my son. Honestly, the most amazing woman ever. We decided that if grandmother-in-law was going to come over, we were going to set boundaries to make sure our son was safe and to have our own peace of mind. The boundaries were that we weren't comfortable with grandmother-in-law holding son, but would love for her to finally be able to see him. I specify this because some people see it was wrong that we would exclude her from holding son, but we specified this to everyone before she came over, and grandmother-in-law agreed with it. remember, she has continuously been sick and won't tell anyone she is, and when it comes time to see son, no way in heck was she gonna cancel if she felt ill. On top of this, we said she needed to wear a mask and take a COVID test beforehand. The day that she came over, we received a text from my mother-in-law that she was also coming with my grandmother-in-law and asked what time they should arrive. Mother-in-law has been to our house a few times, so it wasn't a huge deal, but I realize now it wasn't the best idea. They walk in, and grandmother-in-law shows my grandmother the COVID test, not us, but whatever, and proceeds to stuff the mask she was holding back into her purse. At this point, I'm kind of over it, but I just smile and talk to her for a little bit before going back to the kitchen while my husband took the dog outside to use the bathroom. When I was out of hearing range, or so she thought, she asked my grandmother to hold son. My grandmother turned to me in the kitchen and repeated the question, and I simply stated, "Would you mind asking husband when he gets back?" I figured since it's husband's grandmother-in-law, it would be a lot gentler if he let her down. Instead, grandmother-in-law started crying, no actual tears, and exclaimed, "Why does no one like me?" Remember what I said about being emotionally manipulative? Yeah. I was uncomfortable. My grandmother was uncomfortable. Our poor other dog in the kitchen with me was uncomfortable. I excused myself to go start laundry after checking with my grandmother she was okay holding son for another minute before my husband came back in. Immediately when I left the room, again, my mistake, my mother-in-law walks over, takes my son from my grandmother, and puts him on my grandmother-in-law's lap. Before this, son was smiling and laughing while my grandmother held him, but faced him toward grandmother-in-law. My son lost it and started screaming. My husband walks in at this point, sees son on grandmother-in-law's lap, and immediately grabbed him from grandmother-in-law and went into the kitchen. My mother-in-law was shocked and made a snide comment of, "Oh, so no one gets to hold son today." Then they both left soon after, and my grandmother apologized profusely for the situation when I found out. It definitely wasn't her fault at all. Now comes the real dramatic part. 3 weeks after what I will now call the incident, my mother-in-law has been calling husband, and we explained to her that we were upset with how that happened. She didn't grasp what she did wrong, and the conversation ultimately went nowhere. Another week and more calls. Here's where the text messages come into the story. Husband to mother-in-law said, "Hey, I want you to know I'm not ignoring you, but I'm still not over what happened. We want you to be a part of ours and son's life, but because of the boundaries you broke, we don't feel comfortable having you over for a while." Next week, sister-in-law to husband, "Hey, want to do dinner at mom's on Saturday if y'all aren't busy? I want to see son." Husband says, "No, mom still hasn't even tried to talk to us after her and Nana came here." The next day, sister-in-law to husband says, "Hey, what's the deal with mom and Nana? Something's been off since that day they came over there. Y'all have been distant. I just want to know what's going on." Husband says, "I already talked to mom, but me and Opie decided that we aren't comfortable with mom coming over for a while because she broke boundaries. It's important to us because we did discuss beforehand what we expected, and son's health is more important than anything." Sister-in-law replies, "Oh, okay, but what boundaries were broken? I'm confused. She wasn't sick or anything. She'd been around son before that day that they went over there. What happened specifically that day that made y'all feel uncomfortable, other than Nana not wearing a mask?" "We already told mom about it. Don't worry." The next day. Side note, my postpartum depression has gotten extremely bad and in-laws were starting to be a little much on Facebook, so I took them off. Sister-in-law to husband said, "Why did OP unfriend me and mom on Facebook? Stepdad just called and said mom is bawling her eyes out over this whole situation. I don't know what the deal is, but I hope you realize what y'all are doing to the family. I'm not trying to be in the middle of anything, but mom and Nana feel like they can't talk to you or OP. What's the deal? This crap can't go on forever. Y'all need to work it out." Husband says, "Like I said before, we already talked to mom about it. You said you weren't going to choose sides, and it seems you already have. Please stay out of it. OP unadded everyone because she has way too much going on and doesn't want to be in the drama. We never said mom wouldn't see son again, but we still need time. Son is our son, and Mom and Nana broke a boundary that we set even before Son was born. Even if someone in Opie's family did the same thing, it would be the same outcome. We were hesitant about Nana coming over at all because of exactly what just happened. The next day, and after a phone call with Sister-in-law where Sister-in-law said OP was causing all the drama. Husband says, after that conversation, me and OP have talked and decided we feel you need to completely stay out of everything going on. We understand you're trying to defend Mom and be a messenger, but you have more than likely have unknowingly taken her side in this when there is no side. We are Son's parents, and we get to decide who does and doesn't see him. We aren't going to keep going in circles on what boundaries are because we have already stated multiple times what they were. What matters now is that Mom and now you can't respect that we need time to just move on from the situation. No one is trying to start drama, but by dragging more people into this, like Dad, you are in fact causing drama and we don't appreciate it. In case you forgot, we were very hesitant on Nana seeing Son for the very reasons that happened. Not only did Nana ask to hold Son when both OP and I left the room, but Mom then took it in her own hands to hand Son to Nana. We already stated that we were concerned for Son getting sick and we weren't comfortable with her holding him, but that wasn't good enough for them. Son is not a toy. We aren't mad at them, but the situation, but you have nothing to do with it. It doesn't matter, you are the messenger. You can still come and see Son whenever you want, but we need time away from Mom and to process the situation. Sister-in-law says, okay. In case you're wondering, yes, Sister-in-law did kind of come out of left field. I received comments that we shouldn't have just let this continue and just ignore Sister-in-law, but we genuinely wanted her to just understand why we were upset and we would really like her to not get involved. I was starting to feel like maybe I was just a witch and posted the text messages, names hidden of course, to a Facebook group called Monster-in-Laws. Not even a few hours later, and I received a text from Sister-in-law with screenshots of the post and question marks. I have no freaking clue how she found the post as she is blocked on my Facebook, but she did. I felt very, very uncomfortable with her just happening upon my post, or if someone on a group of thousands of people recognized the story and sent it to Sister-in-law. Really not a huge fan of that. When I ignored her text, she sent the screenshots to my husband. Here's what followed. Husband to Sister-in-law says, "Can you just mind your own dang business? You have done nothing but stir the pot. OP has had nothing but problems since Son was born, and honestly, the last thing she needs is this. I don't know what kind of resentment you harbor toward her, or why you even do, but you've hated her since we got married. Guess what? You're going to have to deal with it. OP and Son are my family now, and they come before anything. I won't let you or anybody act this way toward us. Decide if this is worth having a semblance of a relationship with us. I don't give a crap at this point, because honestly, I have zero interest in ever talking to you again." Sister-in-law to husband says, "I haven't done anything. I've just been the messenger in this whole situation. If that's what you want, then fine." Shows OP's true character. I forgave OP for what she did to you. She's always assumed I've had it out for her, but I haven't. You don't understand how much you've affected and hurt our family. OP caused all of this. I wasn't the one asking to see Son. I was sticking up for Mom and Nana. They felt like they couldn't say anything to you because they didn't want to upset you. I chose to be the messenger in this whole situation because I actually care and love my family. You've done irreversible emotional damage to Mom and Nana, and now me. I hope you realize that, and I wasn't the one starting drama. If you don't ever want to talk to me again, then fine, so be it. Don't come back around later saying, "I told you so," but because I've done nothing but try and be nice and accepting toward OP, and all I get is this. But if that's the life y'all chose to live, then go ahead. OP is never like me or Mom, or any of our family for that matter, and it's said it comes to picking sides. Don't call me a pot stir because I've done nothing wrong. I've only told the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. Getting mad and unfriending me and blocking me also doesn't solve anything. Tell me where I've gone wrong in this situation. Please, I was only looking out for Mom and Nana because it hurts me to see them so upset. This is not guilt-tripping you, this is just the honest truth. I haven't done anything wrong, yet I'm causing drama because I'm the only one not afraid to shoot you straight. Husband replies, I'm taking my wife's side. Like I said, it's sad you feel like you have to pick a side. We're adults, and y'all are married. When you get married, you don't pick sides. Am I wrong? Please tell me what I did wrong. Honestly, this could have been over with the first text to mother-in-law. Husband and I just needed a week or two to feel comfortable having them over again, and instead, sister-in-law made it worse. Oh, I think I am going to need a nice cold Mountain Dew after reading this one, because this is a blood boiler. As you're reading this and putting this emotion and pulling these words off the page, it's like, holy cow, this has to stop. This character, this blame gaming, this I did nothing wrong, the traits of narcissists, they don't take blame, nothing is their fault, everybody else causes the drama, but they never do. There's a funny phrase that I have heard once. Tell me if you've ever heard this before in the comments, please, that I'm not alone. If it smells like crap everywhere you go, check your own shoes. And that applies to this story so much. Opie, I am so sorry that you're dealing with this. This is absolutely terrible. Thank you for standing your ground with your husband. Thank you for not giving up, husband, as a dad. You all, this is a crazy situation, and you're just coming out on top of it, stronger and the better person. Way to go, OP. My Mom and Her Toxic Husband, posted by Royal Loki 2012. So over the weekend, my mom and her husband decided to pack everything up and move halfway across the country with everything they had bungee corded into the back of their pickup with barely any money to work with on their way to near where we live. They called me, 31-year-old male, an hour away, asking to stay without warning. I said yes, since it was late and they had no money for a hotel room and were waiting for Monday for the pawn shops to open so my mom could pawn her ring and whatever else they could do to make it the rest of the way. My girlfriend, 37-year-old female, had to take my mom's husband to the hospital at midnight since he couldn't find his asthma medicine since they packed everything every which way on the truck and she had to go pick him up 2 hours later after being released. On Sunday, he asked me if they could stay for 2 weeks without my girlfriend around, which I found to be very rude and underhanded of him. I told him he needs to talk to her because it isn't my decision to make. After discussing it with her, she had to talk to her mom about it. Now, she owns the house that we live in and pay the rent. She said they had to leave by the time the pawn shops close on Monday, since they didn't call beforehand to set it up to stay any longer than that. Now, before anyone asked, they offered to pay $300 and get $100 in groceries with money that they don't have. He doesn't start his new job until 2 weeks from now. Now, this isn't the first time they've done this with me for the last 6 years while bouncing between states and jobs with no funds to work with. When they were told this, the mood shifted and the gaslighting started. Mom said, "Fine, we won't be a burden on you," and then she refused to eat. She does this when she's upset. Her husband then proceeded to ask if he could talk to my girlfriend's mom and try to convince her. Monday comes around, and while my girlfriend is at work, he calls her and starts going off on her, saying that she probably didn't even try convincing her mom in the first place, and again stated if he tried talking to her, he could try convincing her. He did all this screaming over the phone around her coworkers, throwing the fact that when we went to visit them last year, they could have been kicked out of the hotel room they were staying in long term. Now, ever since we lost the apartment in 2017, that's been a constant thing for them. When they offered to have us stay, so we didn't have to worry about expenses of a hotel room for ourselves. Now, we were going to a convention in the same city that they were in. I came home to see that they were gone. Tuesday gets here, and on my way home from work, I get a phone call from an unknown number, but I knew who it was. This is roughly how the conversation went between me and the toxic husband. Hello? Hey, yeah, you know who this is, right? Yeah, I know who this is. Your mother doesn't know I'm calling you. Do you think there is any way you can convince her mom to let us stay there? Because we already pawned what we could, and we won't have enough money to keep the hotel room another night. I already told you, it isn't my decision. If she said no, then it's no. Well, we won't have anywhere to stay, and your mother will end up sleeping in the truck. I'm thinking in my head, yeah, and I've slept in an abandoned cemetery in the middle of December in a tent to get away from you. I'm sorry, but I can't make that final call. It isn't my decision to make. Has your mother ever abandoned you? No. Has she always been there for you? Yes. So the least you can do is let her stay there. I'm sorry, but again, it isn't my decision, and I don't appreciate you going off on my girlfriend like a scalded dog. You had no right doing that to her. I'll go off on whoever I want, and I don't care if you like it or not. I can do whatever I want, regardless if it makes you mad. I'm thinking in my head, yes, you can, but it doesn't mean you're absolved of the repercussions of your actions. All right, if you don't care. I haven't heard from either of them since. This has been a routine thing with them, and I'm exhausted from dealing with this and his BS for the last 12 years. He has been more or less out of my life the last 6 years, and I refuse to deal with it anymore. If it comes down to it, I will cut both of them out. Complete scorched earth. I shouldn't have to deal with his drama, toxicity, or gaslighting. His failure to take care of himself and her is not my priority. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and don't let anyone toxic or entitled control your life or guilt trip you. If there is something, Opie, that I have learned over the years, it's that you can try and beat your head against that wall till you're blue in the face, as they say, to try to change someone or show them the way that, hey, you're being toxic, entitled, narcissist. And the thing that sucks is that no matter what you do, they have to be the one to change. For your own mental health, do what you can do, and then just say, hey, I have to make peace with the fact that they are their own grown adult. They have to make that decision to change their life. If they cut everybody else out, if everybody just quits screwing with them because of all the trouble that comes when they deal with them, then that's on them. That is not on you to bear and shoulder that burden. They have to come to terms, hit rock bottom if it may, with their consequences, just for your mental health. Opie, I am sorry you're going through this, but I've dealt with the entitled people too, and I know how you feel. It is rough, but thankfully you're coming out on top in the end. Entitled woman at a pharmacy, posted by Psychological Fix-Op. So for a little context, I have a condition that requires I take daily medication for the rest of my life, which sucks, but it is what it is. Because of that, I'm in the pharmacy at least once a month picking up new medication. And anyone who has had to consistently go to the doctors or pharmacies knows that you're eventually going to run into a Karen or two. Usually, it's just some mom whose kid has to get some antibiotics, or someone who doesn't understand that you can't send in a prescription and pick it up in an hour. But this was the only one I thought was bad enough to share. So I was waiting in line at the pharmacy, and this lady walks up and goes straight to the front. The pharmacist explains that there's a line and she needs to wait. She looks annoyed, but goes to the back of the line. So far, nothing really out of the ordinary. It happens on occasion. I'm about third in line and she's in fifth. The craziness started when I was next in line. This lady was waiting in some of the seats and starts crying. I try to ignore it because you could tell that it was obviously fake. Doing that thing that toddlers do, crying and looking around to see if anyone is giving her attention, and when they're not, crying louder. Finally, she was crying loud enough it got the attention of an employee who asked if she was okay. That's when she started complaining to everyone who had listened that I've been here over an hour, which is BS. She came in a few minutes after me, and I had max been there 15 minutes. And I'm sick and I don't understand why you would do this to me. I need my medicine. At this point, all I could do was roll my eyes and think, yeah, lady, you're at a pharmacy. We're here picking up prescription medication. No one's here because we're having a great time at the moment. So I finally get up to the front and they let me know that they have my meds, but they're in a box that hasn't been unpacked and they ask me to wait. No big deal. The system tells me when they come in, not when they're on the shelf. At this point, she is bawling and complaining loudly. You would think she was a little kid who got their toy taken away. I go to sit in one of those seats and just try to ignore her as the guy in front of her gets his medication. Finally, it's her turn, and she magically stops crying on a dime and turns to being angry and complaining to the pharmacist that she's been there for an hour and needs her medication. And how dare they make her wait that long? This happens every time, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the pharmacist knew that this was BS, but was calm and just moved on. The situation got worse when it turned out this lady had sent in her prescription that morning and it had to be ordered, so obviously they didn't have it. The pharmacist explains that they didn't have it and she needs to give them at least 2 days for that medication. She then starts screaming at full volume saying that was BS, she sent it in 4 days ago so they should have it, and saying this happens at every pharmacy she goes to, and if they were going to do it to her too, she might as well just go back to her old pharmacy. Again, all I could do was try and ignore her and think, yeah, if this happens at every pharmacist, maybe it's not the pharmacy that's the problem. This back and forth went on for a few minutes before she finally accepted they really didn't have the medication and that she would have to wait. She left in a huff and still telling anyone who would listen at how ridiculous it was that they make her wait and she was sick and needed her medication and they should already have it. Finally, my medication was ready and I joked with the pharmacist about how crazy that was. She confirmed that the lady does it every time. And every time the time frame that she says that she already submitted gets bigger and bigger. I guess to try to guilt them into thinking it was their mistake and then magically make her medicine appear. Not a crazy exciting story, but I couldn't believe the scene this lady made because she messed up sending her prescription in and was made to wait for 20 minutes max. This is a full blue. I know this is a Karen. I know it is because she exaggerates the truth, throws a fit, and makes it all about her at the scene. Wonders, where's all my attention at? Like, all this is stereotypical narcissist Karen behavior, and she thinks it's going to work by escalating that to what? What's she going to say? I've been waiting here for 3.5 years. Next time? Probably, because that's what she does. Good job on the pharmacist for recognizing this happens every single time, holding her ground. Good job to Opie for keeping your cool as well and not giving her the attention that she was craving. You cut it off at the source. Don't fuel her fire with your oxygen as she wastes her carbon dioxide, ranting and raving like the Karen she is. Nice job, Opie. I don't work here, posted by Manexplain. I work in an emergency room and do 3 days of 12-hour shifts from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. each week. Because these shifts are exhausting, I always try to get errands done the day before my shifts start so that I can just come home and relax instead of going to the store or the gas station. Last week, I forgot to fill my tank, and I didn't realize it until I came out to go to work that morning, and I wasn't just on E. The low fuel light was on, and unfortunately, there were no gas stations open where I live. Instead, I decided to just chance it. I got on the freeway and I got off at the first exit where I knew there was a gas station that was open. At this point, the truck was rattling and I knew it was going to shut down if I tried to go any further without some gas. Where I live, Oregon, you are not allowed to pump your own gas, so I'm sitting there waiting for the attendant, but no one is around. I walked inside and yelled, "Hello?" No one answered. Seriously, anyone could have walked in and stolen anything. My truck is off, and I know that she is not going anywhere. I have 15 minutes to get to work, and I am 10 minutes away from the hospital. I am so desperate that I yell, "I'm sorry, I'm on E, so I'm going to pump my own gas. Hope you don't mind." I figured that the attendant was doing the old number 2 in the employee bathroom. As I am walking back to my car, a brand new silver Audi pulls up with a middle-aged female driver in the driver's seat. I didn't think much of it and proceeded to place my card into the machine and start pumping my own gas. Suddenly, she gets out of her car and looks at me. She was clearly annoyed. I need a fill of premium. I ignored her because I'm trying to hurry up and get my gas and still get to work on time. "Excuse me, I need a fill of premium." She can clearly see I don't work there. I'm wearing my hospital clothes and I'm wearing my hospital badge. Something inside of me got mad. I deal with a lot of angry people at my job. I've been called every name in the book. I've even had patients assault me. but I had never had someone talk to me like I am dirty. I don't know how to explain it, but there was something in her voice that made me feel less than a human being. Instead of ignoring her like I should have, I simply said, "Lady, I can't help you." Luckily, my gas was finishing being pumped, so I was putting everything away and collecting my receipt as she stormed past me to go inside, like she was going to go tattle on the bad employee who won't pump her gas. She, too, was confronted with an empty store. She came back out and yelled, "I need my gas pumped now." I heard her call me a dumb witch under her breath. I got in my truck, slammed the door, and started the truck up. Luckily, the truck started immediately. I was so angry at her calling me a dumb witch that I rolled down my window, looked at her, and said, "I don't work here, lady. I just pump my own, and I would have totally helped you had you not been so rude and nasty to me. Have a better day." I didn't stick around. I had to get to work, so I didn't get to look back and see her reaction. I'd like to hope that she learned a lesson in this, but I truly doubt it. If there's been one thing I've learned in my mid-30s years of life, is that Karens don't see the other or right side of the story. She assumed, which makes a what out of you and me, huh? And that Opie was the attendant when he clearly had the hospital clothes on, clearly at his own truck, and just went full Karen mode. Didn't care to get the story, didn't care to listen. She was right, it was her way, super entitled. And Opie, good job on standing your ground. Hope you had a better day and that she at least had a good one, but she's a Karen, so she probably won't have a good day, right? Thank you for listening to Austin Stories. Check out my next Entitled People and Karen's compilation right here to continue your listening journey. See you in the next one.